Hi YouTube, how are you doing? And welcome finally to my Phasmophobia Ghost Tier List. I haven't done one of these in my entire time of playing this game, which is about 1,000 hours, and I am very excited to share my opinions on all the ghosts with you guys. And there's also some other very exciting news, which is that this tier list will basically immediately become outdated because there's two new ghosts that have already been teased that will come at the end of August. However, that is exactly why I wanted to record my opinions now, because this is how the game has been for a very long time, and I wanted to just document what is my opinion on all of the ghosts, which are the most dangerous ghosts, which are the least dangerous ghosts, and then when new ghosts get added in the future, which will be very soon, we can revise this list, have things changed, are different ghosts harder now, and it'll just make the discussion a little bit easier rather than having to backpedal when there are new ghosts added. So yeah, I hope you join me. We're gonna go through all of the ghosts in the game right now, and I am very excited to share my opinions with you. If you're not subscribed, please do so. If you like the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. But let's not waste any more time, and let's start tearing the ghosts. We got 5 tiers here. S tier is so I'm gonna quickly explain what these tiers are. S tier, in my opinion, is like complete game-changing tier. These ghosts, you know when you're facing them, and you have to completely play in a different way. Some situations might just inherently be dangerous without any counter to them, and like S tier are just like it's this very special tier where like the most dangerous ghosts reside. A tier is this ghost can very much kill you. They might have some counters though, or they might be easy to find, but they are very dangerous, and they will be among the most dangerous, the ghosts that kill the most people. B tier is ghosts that are very strong and could be A tier, but they have something else that is like a weakness that holds them down from being A tier. Something like very, very easy to find, or just some other weaknesses that make them easy to counter. C tier will be basically a tier above D tier. They're not completely terrible. They are better than a baseline just nothing ghost. They have something going for them, but it's barely noticeable. It never happens, or yeah, it's just slightly better than the complete blank ghost. And then D tier is complete trash tier. Like, here is where the ghosts are that either nerf themselves completely or basically have just nothing. That is going to be D tier. So yeah, those are what the tiers mean, and then I'm going to rank the ghosts based on how dangerous are they, how likely are they to kill you, and how easy are they to find. I think that's also something that is often overlooked, but sometimes some ghosts are so easy to find that they might be very dangerous, but then they are easy overall, and they are very unlikely to kill you because you just end the game so quickly. So yeah, let's start, though, with the first ghost. We're going to go through them in journal order, and we're going to start with the spirit box. Chat will also be voting, and you can play along with the list that is, or the link that's going to be in the description that will link you to the site where you can fill in your own tier list. So yeah, let's talk about the spirit. Well, that's a good start. Spirit is an absolute trash tier ghost. It is by far the weakest ghost in my opinion, so we're starting off strong. The spirit has as a strength nothing. It says it in the book. The spirit has no strength. As weakness is that it is disabled by a smudge stick for twice as long as normal ghosts. The spirit will be disabled for 3 minutes, whereas normal ghosts are only disabled for 1.5 minutes when you smudge them. So they can't hunt for double the time, which makes them very easy to just have them never hunt. And then on top of that is a hidden mechanic that the spirit has, which is where you can detect them instantly based on their footstep noise, which I actually only recently discovered and only recently made a video about. But every ghost will make these footstep noises just every now and then. However, the spirit will do these footstep noises every 2 to 15 seconds, whereas every other ghost will do these footstep noises between 15 and 45 seconds. So when you hear a bunch of footstep noises very close together that aren't because of you placing salt, but just random idle footstep noises, you instantly know you're dealing with a spirit, and you can just fill it in the book and leave if you wanted to. Basically, the spirit gives itself away immediately. It has a very, very weak weakness, or a very strong weakness, I guess. So yeah, spirit is by far the weakest ghost in my opinion as it stands right now. So that is going to be my opinion. Let's see what chat thinks. What does chat thinks? Oh, chat thinks this is also very much... Here, we have chat voting over here. Chat thinks this is a huge D tier. There were actually 12% voting for C. That's pretty impressive. Yeah, Spirit is like by far the weakest ghost in my opinion. But yeah, that's going to be where Spirit lands for me. let's go to the next ghost, which is going to be the Wraith. I also have some notes here that I'm going to be going over. Wraith is one of the ghosts that has the most myths surrounding them. A lot of people think Wraiths are super scary, that they can see through walls, that they can go through walls, or do all kinds of crazy stuff because the book says that they are very scary, the most dangerous ghost or something. I don't know. I think they actually removed that line, but yeah. The Wraith is hyped up for it to be basically very weak compared to what it says in the book. The Wraith has only one special ability, which is that it can teleport to a player randomly. Anywhere on the map, it can teleport to the player, and then it'll be there. It can do interactions there, it can do ghost events there, and this is pretty unique, and it can actually have some impact on the game, because when the ghost teleports, it'll be somewhere else, and it might be hard to know where's the ghost room, where can I collect evidence. And it can also start a hunt from that location, which can make it spawn in a surprising position where you aren't used to the ghost being, because the ghost room is completely somewhere else, which can actually get you killed. So I think that is a pretty unique ability and a overall kind of strong ability, but just the fact that it kind of has nothing, like it would have to teleport and then start a hunt immediately for it to even do anything. It is like it is almost nothing, so I'm gonna land Wraith in C tier. However, I can see it being B tier, but the teleport ability just, it never really does much. It's just more of a novelty than it is actually gameplay impacting. So I'm gonna go with C tier here, and I'm very curious on this one what actually chat thinks, because I think this is one of those where you could go with either B tier or C tier in my opinion. But let's see, what does chat think? Chat is actually of a different opinion. That is nice. So chat thinks with 44% B tier and 42% C tier. All right, so you guys disagree with me. Yeah, I think Wraith is a pretty solid C tier, but it just doesn't get itself into B tier. It just doesn't have anything really impacting going for it. So I'm gonna go with C here, even though chat votes for B. Let me know what you think on Wraith. Alrighty. Moving on. We're going into a very strong ghost now, in my opinion, at least. We have the Phantom coming up. The Phantom, in my opinion, is one of the scarier ghosts in the game. It has lots of stuff. The Phantom has so many different things, so I'm going to go over all these things and talk about them. Oh, wait a second. I forgot that the Wraith also has something with salt, where it can step in the salt and then it'll become slightly more aggressive, and you can find the ghost easily with that. So that is also another reason why I think B tier is a little bit far-fetched for Wraith. Sorry, I forgot about the salt. Yeah, I think just being able to detect it so easily with salt is also one more reason to put it in C tier. But yeah, let's continue with the Phantom. Sorry about the little tangent there. I have my notes here, that's why I'm reading them. So what can the Phantom do? The Phantom has a bunch of things. One of the main things, in my opinion, being that you can take a photo of the Phantom when it does a ghost event, and it'll disappear. You can also do it during a hunt, but during a hunt, there's other things going on that make it very hard to take a photo. As soon as you take a photo, the Phantom will completely disappear. It will not show up on the photo, which instantly gives itself away. I think this is one of the huge weaknesses of the Phantom, that it is just so... It just, like, sells itself off immediately. It gives itself away right away, even though the Phantom has a really strong ability, which is that it blinks extremely infrequently during a hunt. I think this really holds the Phantom back, in my opinion. So the Phantom has a super cool ability during a hunt, that it blinks a lot less, which can make it very hard to track during a hunt. It can sneak up on you, especially when you're trying to loop it. It can double back on you without even knowing, which makes it very hard if you're trying to loop it. However, why would you really... You don't really have to loop. So I think that the fact that you don't have to loop if you don't want to, and that it gives itself away so easily, kind of hold it back from being an A tier. I would put it in A tier if it wasn't so easy to detect. But for me, it's gonna end up in a pretty strong B tier because of that. I think it does have very hard evidence. It has orbs and EMF, which can be pretty tough when the ghost is very roamy, especially orbs if you can't locate the ghost room. And freezing as well. If you can't locate the ghost room, freezing and orbs can be very hard to find. There is also another myth, which is interesting. There's a myth that the Phantom will teleport to the Ouija board. And we asked DK this, if this was true a while ago, and DK said that this wasn't true, so that is just completely non-factor for me. The blinking is really dangerous, but the fact that it gives itself away is kind of what lands it in B tier for me. There's also another myth slash fact that I don't really, I haven't never been able to fully confirm or deny this, that the Phantom will drain your sanity quicker when you're close to it. I have no data on that, but even if that was true, I don't think that lands it in A tier. I think that's still a B tier for me. So yeah, I'm very curious what the chat thinks on this one, so let's go check out what they think. Ooh, interesting. Okay, we got and pull. We got a B tier here, but still pretty close. B and A tier. People were indeed on the fence of this. I just think that there's more dangerous ghosts around. That if you would put Phantom in A tier and the other ghosts that I'm gonna put in A tier, and you compare Phantom with those other ghosts, then people are gonna say like, you're crazy. So that is why I'm landing Phantom. I think Phantom is pretty much the exact example of a B tier, where you have a lot of things going for you. Well, the main thing being very hard to dodge during a hunt, but then it also gives itself away pretty much immediately. Like, the weakness and strength are kind of tied together, which is cool. I think the Phantom is a really cool ghost. Okay, let's move on to the next ghost, which is going to be the Poltergeist, a favorite of many people. I know a lot of people think, or a lot of people have Poltergeist as their favorite ghost. I think it is a really fun ghost to go against. However, I don't think it is that as strong as a ghost in terms of, like, difficulty. The ability that the Poltergeist has is that it can throw a lot of things at the same time. It can create, like, a huge explosion, which will give itself away, basically. But it can also drain your sanity. However, the fact that it gives itself away kind of outweighs the fact that it drops your sanity when it happens, because, well, then you know what the ghost is and you can just leave, take a pill or something. Like, you immediately know. What I think is much more interesting about the Poltergeist is for people like me that use a lot of different tricks to find, or a lot of shortcuts to find the ghost. The EMF chart, or the activity chart in the truck, is actually a weapon that the Poltergeist wields. The Poltergeist is the only ghost that, without ghost events, can create fake spikes of EMF 5 on the chart. If you don't know how to read the chart, I've made videos on that, on how to read the chart and get EMF 5 from the chart. But the Poltergeist can create a ton of fake spikes that look like EMF 5, so a player like me would go, okay, that's an EMF 5 ghost, and then completely get put on the wrong track and completely go for the wrong ghost. And I've many times even had it completely incorrect by the end, because I just didn't bother to check orbs or spirit box or something, because I was so convinced that it was going to be EMF 5, which I think is actually quite a cool thing that the Polter is going for, which makes it harder, in my opinion. The weakness of the Poltergeist in the book, it says that it's almost helpless in an empty room, which I think is almost a strength rather than a weakness, because it makes the Poltergeist very hard to find when it's in an empty room, because it doesn't really throw, it has nothing to throw, which makes it very hard to find. So that is more of a detriment to the player than it is to the ghost. So I don't really know what that's in a weakness category. I guess they had to fill in something there. But yeah, overall, a very unique ghost with a lot of fun behavior, but it's not very dangerous. But I still think it's better than a just completely bland ghost. So I'm not going to go with D tier here. I'm going to go with C tier. It doesn't have anything that is going to kill you, but it can throw you off guard with the EMF chart, and it can drop your sanity as well. So I'm going to go with a solid C tier. Let's see what chat thinks. What does chat think? Oh, baby. That is very, very much agreeing with me here. Let's see. Boom. We got a solid C tier with 67%. I think that is exactly where the Polter belongs. But it's still a really fun ghost. This list is not based on fun. Well, I guess kind of. Also a bit where you could increase the ghost rank based on how fun they are. But yeah, I think that overall a Polter definitely has to go in C tier. All right, let's move on to the Banshee. Our really good ghost that is probably, I think I'm gonna rank this in a different tier than people. Oh, I need to remove this. Then people are gonna rank it in chat over here, because I think that Banshee is one of the really cool ghosts with a very cool ability. The Banshee's ability is that it can hunt at any sanity. If it decides to, it's very rare, but if it decides to, it can hunt you right away when you step into the house. This is a really unique thing, and it is one of the ghosts that I've made a ton of videos on, why I love Banshees, where I just get instantly hunted, and it becomes a very exciting game. I love them. They're one of my favorite ghosts. But it's just so rare. That ability is so incredibly rare that it does increase their rank quite a bit, but it's just not consistent. It's just not consistent at all, which I think reduces them quite a bit. And then they have a couple very strong weaknesses. The weakness of the Banshee is that it is impacted by a crucifix a ton more. The range of the crucifix is doubled against the Banshee, which makes it super easy to stop a hunt with a Banshee. It basically means that if you bring in 2 crucifixes, you just stop 4 hunts. You don't even have to place them well. Against a Banshee, I would recommend just throwing your crucifixes in the middle of the room, and 4 hunts will just completely be negated every single time, which makes it very easy to counter a Banshee. Another thing, which I don't often encounter because I play solo a lot, is that the Banshee will have a target. The Banshee will target one person and one person alone, which in multiplayer nerfs them hugely. If you are playing in a multiplayer match with 4 people and you're against the Banshee, there is 3 out of 4, there's only 1 out of 4 chance that you can even die at all when the ghost hunts. So not only is the ability super rare, but when the ghost hunts, there's only a 1 in 4 chance that even if you walk on top of the ghost, you will die. Like, that is so huge, the fact that it has a target. There are a couple caveats to the target. If the target leaves the house, it will hunt as a normal ghost. It'll basically take whatever the closest person is, whatever it can see, and it'll go after that player. But when the target is in the house, the target can literally sit in a locker and just do nothing, and the ghost will never be able to kill anyone. It is pretty freaking huge for multiplayer. Another thing that does make it stronger is that doing the objectives of repel the ghost, escape the ghost, are actually harder against the Banshee, because these have to be done either by making the target leave the house and then having other people do it, or the target has to do them. So if your least experienced player is the target, it can become really difficult to get these objectives done, and you might stick around a long time against this ghost. And the longer you're in the house and the lower your sanity gets, the more dangerous ghosts become. So I think that if you're a perfectionist and you go for those perfect rounds, then the fact that those objectives are harder can actually keep you around longer, which can make the ghost slightly stronger. So I'm going with a split tier. What is overall my weakness, or overall my ranking on this? I think that the ability is really cool, but it's so rare that it doesn't really do that much in an average game. And in multiplayer, this ghost is pretty weak in my opinion. In multiplayer, I would honestly go full C tier. I know that's probably something you wouldn't agree with, but on multiplayer, I would go C tier, just because the chance of you actually dying against the Banshee is basically non-existence, because it's only 1 out of 4 chance that you even the target at all. However, in solo play, I would go with a solid B tier. I think that the ability is, if they increase the chance of this ability, I would go almost A tier immediately, because then if it happens like every quest on average once, that would be amazing, but it just doesn't. It barely ever happens. So I think that is what lands it for in solo play in a B tier for me, which I'm going to rank this list from a solo player perspective, because that's what I play most of the time. That's what I have the most experience with. So I'm going to go with B tier on this one, which I think probably people were going either between A and B tier. That's my prediction on this one. I think this is one of those ghosts that people kind of overrate because they forget the target aspect of this ghost. It's just that's just this huge thing for me, like in just like statistics wise, the chance that you actually die is so low. But I'm really curious what chat thinks, so let's look at chat. What do we think? Ooh, yes, totally disagree. Look at that, they think A tier on this. I've thought about these things. I'm not just doing these I'm not just thinking of this like right here on the spot. I have thought about this off stream. I've made my notes for like a week ago, and I've kind of been editing them here and there to really go, like, not just do impulse decisions, but kind of like think more logically about these, why I rank these ghosts in these tiers. And I really think that the targeting thing is a huge detractor for the Banshee. So that is why I'm going to go here. I'm going to keep it here. This is going to be my list, but interesting that Twitch chat would put it one tier higher. And that's probably from a multiplayer perspective too, which is even more interesting to me, because a lot of people play this game multiplayer. Let's see if I missed anything on the Banshee. No, I think I have everything. Alrighty. So yeah, B tier for me on the Banshee. Let's go to the next ghost, which is going to be the Jinn. Now this, Banshee, you thought Banshee was controversial. Jinn is going to be where everyone, or a lot of people, will completely disagree with me. I think the Jinn is so incredibly overrated, it is ridiculous. I think people think way too highly. Like, on paper, the Jinn sounds super ridiculous, especially with the latest update, where a ghost can now speed up over time. That in combination with the Jinn's ability, which is that it can speed up if it's further away, people think that this just makes the Jinn into an instant killer every time. But there are so many reasons why it's not, and I'm going to try and explain why, in my opinion, that's not the case. I still think that Jinn is a very dangerous ghost. It is one of the scariest ghosts in the game, but it is... People are saying that Jinn is now the new Revenant, which I can't even begin to think why that would even ever be the case. So let's go over why I think these things. So the Jinn has two abilities. It can move very fast if it's far away. Now, it really does have to be very far away. If you've ever done no evidence challenges, you know how hard it is on a small map to see, based on the speed of the ghost, if it is a Jinn or not. The Jinn really has to be quite a distance to it even becoming a factor at all, the speed boost. Because as soon as it's close, it'll be slow and it'll just work like every other ghost. Now, on large maps, this can still be very impactful because you can't just run down corridors. You have to actually, like, break line of sight pretty effectively, because if they can have prolonged line of sight, if their ability allows them to have prolonged line of sight, then it works pretty effectively. However, in small maps, the distance is just not large enough for it to ever, like, be significantly faster. It is also at max speed, not even as fast as a Revenant at max speed. I don't know the exact numbers, but I asked Psycho, and I think he said it was around 2.5, whereas a Revenant is 3 times faster, or a 3 speed, which the player is 1.6 speed. So basically, the Revenant is twice as fast, and the Jinn is a little bit less fast at max speed, which is very far away. The Jinn also has another ability, which is that it can drain the player's sanity. However, that is extremely rare. I've also never actually, I think, noticed this myself. I know it's been proven by several players, like, where they would look at their sanity, go into the house, have nothing happen, and then they leave, and their sanity would be, like, dropped significantly. So I know this is in the game, or supposedly it's in the game. There's, like, some documented proof for it. But the fact that I haven't even really realized it in 1,000 hours, that makes it pretty freaking rare. It doesn't really do that, like, all that often. So the speed is slower than a Revenant, which I think is a pretty significant factor. And when it becomes close to you, it is pretty much unnoticeable. You can loop Jinns just fine. Like, on small maps, where that is where you loop, all the loops are so close range that at that point, the speed of the Jinn doesn't even matter. I think the Jinn speed only matters on large maps. But on large maps, the Rev is just so much scarier that there has to be some distinction between these two, in my opinion, which is what's going to reflect it in the rank. I'm not saying it just yet. I have some more things to say about the Jinn, because I haven't even hit on the largest thing yet, which is that turning off the breaker makes your Jinn into a bitch. Turning off the breaker completely negates the power of the Jinn, where it doesn't speed up anymore. And since most people play on small maps, I think on a large map, again, on a large map where the breaker's far away, this can not really matter that much, because you might be too lazy to go to the breaker, or you just don't want to do that. But on small maps, there's really never a reason to not turn off the breaker. Just do it. And then the ghost is just a complete bitch. It doesn't do anything anymore, besides the sanity thing, which barely happens. So I think the fact that it's a ghost that you can still loop, because like on small maps at that distance, the ghost doesn't even speed up anymore, so you can easily break line of sight with the loop. You don't want to, of course, when I talk about looping in its like old form, where you would just loop around a couch forever until the hunt ended, that doesn't exist anymore because ghosts speed up now. But the speed up is really slow. So what you can do if you're caught out in a bad position, like let's say you don't want to hide in the lockers in the Tanglewood car bedroom garage, and instead you want to loop it around the car, you can do that just fine against a Jinn. You can just stand at one edge of the car, make the Jinn go to you, then loop around it, and then just break line of sight and just go to a closet somewhere. It is like all the scenarios where you can loop still also apply to the Jinn. You can loop a Jinn in the same way you can loop any other ghost, because you basically can't loop prolonged anyway, so that doesn't really matter. However, credit where credit is due. On a large map, again, where you don't want to turn off the breaker, the Jinn is very, very scary. Let's say you're in a random room down at the end of a hallway in Asylum. If the ghost hunts you and you run down the hallway, it will come close to you pretty quick. Like, that is the thing that the Jinn does. The Jinn basically gets close to you, but breaking line of sight is so trivial most of the time that it kind of doesn't matter. However, on large maps, it absolutely does matter. On large map, Jinns are killers, because first of all, you don't want to turn off the breaker because you're lazy. If you've turned it on, maybe you didn't turn it on, in which case, I guess it doesn't matter. But if you didn't turn off the breaker, then you have to basically hide in bad positions. You might have to just dart into a room, because you know that if you're going to run down this corridor, the Jinn is going to be fast enough to eventually kill you. Now, I still would recommend against a Jinn to just run down the corridor and try to break line of sight, either by opening doors behind you or going up the stairs in Asylum. You can still survive it even by just running away, but there is a significant danger factor here that is not the case against any other ghost, because when another ghost, it will still see you down the hallway, but it has to speed up first before it can even get closer to you, and whereas the Jinn kind of gets close to you and then starts speeding up. So I of course I understand the Jinn's ability. I just don't think it's that impactful. So I've seen people put the Jinn. I think that's the gist of it. Turning off the breaker. Also, very important, a myth about the Jinn. I'm going on about the Jinn for quite a long time because I think this is one of those ghosts that a lot of people have very strong opinions about. So I wanna support my decision. There's a myth surrounding Jinns that they are faster when they are not chasing a player. They're at max speed, roaming around the house, searching for the player, which is just not true. People have tested this with placing cameras around the house and observing Jinns while there was no one in the house, and they are not faster. So that's simply not a factor here in my decision. So I know I've shat all over Jinns, but they're very scary. They're absolute super A tiers, in my opinion, but I just wanted to support my decision of not going S tier on Jinns. Jinn is still an absolute A tier, but they're just not on the same level as Revenants, and I really wanted to support that because I know people are gonna go like, dude, what the heck, man? But I hope I gave you enough arguments for that you can understand why I put Jinns in A tier rather than S tier. So yeah, I'm very curious if all my bashing of the Jinn has kind of influenced what people think. No, it's still the same. Let me check. Let me show you YouTube what Twitch thinks. We have an A vote, but with 42%, barely anyone voted S. So that is I'm pretty impressed with that. I think I've always been a strong advocate of Jinns being weaker than Revs, so this might also influence, of course, the people that are here watch my stream, so they might be influenced by that, by what I've said in the past. But yeah, I think Jinn is an A, very strong ghost, but just not scary all the time. Just the fact that it has such a huge counter that negates the entire argument that we're having about, is the speed really impactful, yes or no, kind of just prevents them from being A tier for me. So that is the Jinn. I have the most notes on that one, so sorry for rambling on about that. Let's move on to the Mare. Now, Mare, I might actually vote different here than other people. I think I'm gonna vote different here. Now, I see in my notes here, I immediately spoil where I'm gonna put this in. But one of the major things that has influenced my decision where to put the Mare is that they recently changed something about the Mare. So if you don't know the Mare is stronger in the dark and weaker in the light. What does this mean? In the dark, they can hunt at 60% sanity, whereas in the dark, or in the dark, they can hunt at 60% sanity, whereas in the light, they can hunt at 40% sanity. So that is every other ghost, or the default is to hunt at 50% sanity, average sanity. So the Mare can either hunt quicker or slower than average based on if there's light or not, which I think is a really interesting mechanic. However, there's a very important thing about this. This doesn't actually purely impact the ghost room. If the ghost room is lit up, let's say you turn on the light in the ghost room, if the Mare steps out of the room or just roams a tiny bit and goes into a neighboring room that is dark, then it can trigger its hunt from there, and then it can even roam back into the ghost room or start its hunt from a different location, which makes it very hard to actually prevent to turn on all the lights. You'd have to turn on all the neighboring rooms, and then it can still roam further away, especially with the roaming buff that they've done recently, which makes it very hard to kind of keep the Mare in that 40 range. It's usually going to hunt early. A Mare is usually going to hunt early, which I think any ghost that hunts early hunts more often on average, which makes them pretty scary, in my opinion, by default. Any early hunting ghost I kind of put higher on my list because that's just a very strong ability, in my opinion, hunting early. So, on top of that, there can sometimes be like a few ghost events here and there, which also turn off the light, by the way, ghost events, which can then push you into that 60% range, get you an early hunt, catch you off guard, get you killed. I think the Mares are pretty strong, honestly. Of course, if you are a light, it's just like the super fan of light and you turn on all the lights around the ghost room, then yeah, you can counter it, but that's also a lot of work that a lot of people don't do, especially if you don't know for sure that you're dealing with a Mare. I think another thing that's interesting is that the Mare has, freezing, orbs, and spirit box. Of course, spirit box being relatively easy. Freezing and orbs, however, can be pretty difficult if you're dealing with a roaming Mare, because if you turn on the breaker, which you want to turn on the breaker because you want to turn on lights against the Mare, otherwise it's going to hunt you early, which is strong. So let's say you turn on the breaker, then the temperature will rise, which will make it harder to detect freezing ghosts. Freezing has actually become quite a much harder evidence in recent updates because of the roaming buff, because the ghost will only lower the temperature in the room that it is in, rather than just by default always targeting the one ghost room. No, sometimes it can take like super long before it'll even show up. And orbs, if you can't find the ghost room, orbs can also be difficult. So you might be in the game for a while, which often gets the Mare to at least hunt once or twice, which if you play perfectly, or if you play pretty well, you can, like, on average, you won't even get a hunt every game. Like, if you play quick, you won't even get hunted any game. Which I think you will, on average, absolutely get hunted against the Mare, because they hunt at 60, and they also have some okay difficult evidence. So I think it's bordering between C and B tier. I would have put it C tier. Oh, I have forgotten the one thing that makes it B tier and not C tier. So I would have put it C tier before. However, the one thing that they've changed recently is that Mares can now no longer turn off lights. So the Mare will now never on a light. The Mares can now never turn on a light anymore. They've recently changed that, which before the Mares would often just nerf themselves by turning on lights, which would reduce their own hunting capabilities, which was extremely dumb. They recently changed that, whereas Mares can now never turn on lights anymore, which I think is a great change. It doesn't really give that. You would think that would give the Mare away immediately, which it can. If you have a ghost turn on a light, you know, aha, that's not a Mare. But you really got to pay attention for that. I think that rewards very attentive players, which is cool. But I personally haven't really put that into my system yet, where I go, oh, light went on, it's not a Mare, and that has never really been relevant yet. So I think Mare is a B tier purely because early hunting will very often happen against the Mare, which if you can have a ghost early hunt, it can catch you off guard because you're used to the 50% hunts, and it can get you killed. So that is why I vote Mare into B tier, which I'm very curious to see what chat thinks here. Because I feel like people would go more C tier maybe here. Oh, B, no. Absolutely. Okay, nice. Okay, so people are with me here with B tier. So C tier being the next one, 25% C, and A tier being the one below that. Yeah, I think that is actually, I think we all agree. Yeah, it's, in my opinion, bordering here. I think that the difference between default 50% and 60 is not big enough to put it in A tier, especially because if you do turn on all the lights, it is 40%, which is even less than other ghosts. So yeah, I think that is fairly universal here. We're voting the same way. Let's move on to my favorite ghost, which is the Revenant. So Revenant is absolute freaking S tier. If you disagree, you're wrong. Revenant is S tier. It is the strongest ghost by an absolute universe difference. Like, how I often explain it is that the amount of mistakes you can make against any ghost is pretty huge. But this, like, let's say that the amount of mistakes you can make against an average ghost is this. The amount of mistakes you can make against a Rev goes down so much because this ghost changes the way you have to play. You can no longer run in the same way. You can no longer hide in the same way. You have to alter your complete playstyle once you know you're dealing with a Rev. It is very, very game-changing. So if you don't know for some reason, the Revenant has an ability that it is three times default speed, or 3 times speed, which your 1.6 times speed. It makes it turbo fast. If you have line of sight with the Rev, it will kill you. If you can't break line of sight, it will kill you. If you try to loop or you don't know it's a Rev and you try to do some other strategies, it will just kill you. If you're on a big map and you have to go down a hallway, you're dead. So the only things you can do in those scenarios where against any other ghost, you'd have the option to just run. Against a Rev, you have to do, first of all, you have to know that you're dealing with a Rev so you don't do these mistakes. You have to hide in so many suboptimal ways. You have to go dart into a side room that you don't even want to be in, that the ghost can randomly check because it's very close. Now, the Rev is slower when it doesn't see a player, so the chance that it'll check that room is lower because it is exploring less, because it's slower. So that is a thing. But I think that's amazing. Like, you have to change your playstyle. If you're used to safety, complete safety is just running away from the ghost, going to, like, for sure safe spots like closets, lockers, but on certain maps, like the large maps where you don't even have that, this ghost becomes just a killer, and you can't do anything about it. One of the things that people say is, just have a smudge stick. Okay, first of all, the fact that you need to bring a smudge stick, which is 2 inventory slots taken up, by the way, the fact that that is required for the Rev to be counted already makes it much scarier. Like, on paper, like, immediately, like, giving that, or, like, saying that already makes you kind of admit that you need to have some, like, extra items to counter the Rev in the first place. But on top of that, let's say that you did do that. Let's say you have a smudge stick and the Rev starts hunting. Now, that's always a good idea if you're dealing with a Rev to leave a lighter and a smudge stick around the room. So you might be in that situation a lot of the time. But even then, if you smudge the Rev, something that a lot of people don't take into account is that, let's say I smudge the Rev, it'll still have line of sight with you. It won't be targeting you actively, but it'll still have line of sight with you, and its speed up. Its fast speed is only based on having line of sight with you. So even when you smudge it, it's still faster than you. It's still very, very fast, like turbo speed. So what can happen is that you smudge the Rev, and then you try to walk in a direction, but the Revenant is just faster, and it goes into that direction even faster than you can go there, and you'll still die. Or it'll, even you do that, and you see that it's going the same way, you go the other way, and it doubles back. This doesn't often happen when you have a smudge stick, because the ghost is just randomly moving around at that point. But the fact that it can still happen, and even a smudge stick doesn't always keep you safe, just makes the magnitude, or the like, range of errors you can make against a Revenant so much smaller. Freaking gym Revenants, cafeteria Revenants, these things are killers in almost all scenarios. Like, I just cannot think of a reason why anyone would ever not put Revenant above any other ghost. I just can't see it. I just don't understand the arguments, in my opinion. Let's see if I missed anything. Okay, another thing. The Revenant, I know the evidence of a Revenant is going to change in the next update. We've already been teased that. However, at the current state, it has pretty difficult evidence. EMF 5 can be very difficult. Writing can be very difficult. And fingerprints, not as difficult, but again, if you're like in a gym or cafeteria, like large rooms with not many windows or doors, this is even scarier because you can't really get fingerprints. Or like a basement, Tanglewood basement Revenant, also scary. I think just there's so many ghost rooms that the Revenant can have that can allow the Revenant to hunt in certain ways that just kind of get you killed, even when you're playing pretty much perfectly. Like, you really have to be on your A game against a Rev to never have a fluke or never die. And I think it's just an absolute S tier without any competition, in my opinion. Now, of course, there has been other tier lists and other people that disagree. This is my opinion. Let me know what you think. I think these two, the Jinn and the Revenant, are the main thing that people will either agree or disagree with. And I would love to hear your idea on that. Let me see if I missed anything. Quickly checking my notes. Yeah, I think just again, the margin of error is just so much smaller, especially on large maps, and the fact that you cannot counter them unless you have an item with you just makes it strong, in my opinion. Let's see. What does chat think, though? Oh, baby, I think we all agree. We got ourselves a 90... Whoa, my God, look at that vote. 666 votes for S. Now, if that couldn't be more perfect, that is absolutely amazing. Let's go. Okay, so I think it's pretty obvious that the Revenant belongs on S tier, but let me know if you have any great arguments. I would love to hear. Again, this is not a definitive tier list. This is not facts. This is all just based on my experience and my opinions and the abilities of the ghost. So yeah, this is just what I think. But let's move on. We have gone through some hot takes. There's still some hot takes to come here, but let's go on to Shade. Now, Shade, I hate Shades. Everyone hates Shades. Shades fucking suck. D tier, baby. Let's move on. No, just kidding. Let me talk about Shades. Shades suck. They do nothing. Even in solo play, they barely do anything. If you're multiplayer, so if you don't know, Shades and Onis are kind of the counterparts. Shade is more active when you're solo. If you're playing solo, you know that this is barely ever the case. They're still shy when you're playing solo. Why can I speak? Whereas an Oni is even active in... I'm talking about Onis. I should focus on Shades. Shades are just very quiet at almost all points, which kind of is a plus for them. Because if a ghost is very quiet, it can make your quest very long. It can drag it out until even a normal ghost, like 50% sanity, can hunt you. So it kind of has that going for it, that it makes itself hard. It also has a really hard evidence combination. It has orbs, EMF, and wait, I'm writing. Wait, am I saying that right? Yes, orbs, EMF, and writing, which are all area based and all need you to be close to the ghost, which if the ghost is hard to pinpoint, you might not have the writing book in the right place, you might not have the camera in the right place, or you might not be able to get any EMF signals. So I kind of feel like that's on purpose. The Shade had all these evidences that require activity from the ghost, not necessarily orbs, but the other ones, to make it kind of reinforce its shyness and make it harder to find, which is stated as their strength, and I think that is basically their only strength. But huge weakness, if you're not playing solo and you're with two people in the same room as a Shade, it cannot hunt. No matter anyone's sanity, if you're with two people with the ghost in the ghost room, the ghost can't even hunt at all, which is just kind of stupid. If you're playing with your friends, the Shade will almost never hunt. I have been in games where I've been like, wait, it's been 20 minutes and the ghost hasn't even hunted yet. Oh, it's because we're sitting in the room together and it's a stupid Shade. So that can also give it away. If you really get no hunts with low sanity, you know it's a Shade as well. Oh, sorry, I'm not in the live channel. Here you go. Let me go back here. So yeah, I think Let me see if I miss anything on my notes. It does have a hard evidence combination again, which I think it has going for it, and also it is very shy. However, so I could almost see. I could be argued into placing it C tier, honestly. I know it's pretty. I know everyone wants to put Shade D, but the fact that it's so shy kind of could put it in C tier. Because it's your quests are gonna be longer on average, but they're just so boring. And then on top of the fact that they never hunt if you're with multiple people in the room, just like a shade. It's one of those things that if you get killed by a shade, you just feel bad. You feel like, oh god, I'm gonna explain this to my friends. I died by a shade. Let's just hope they don't see which ghost it was, because oh my god. But yeah, shades are shit. I don't like shades, and I'm gonna put them in D for that reason. Fight me. Okay, let's see what people think. Let's see what people think. And bull. Oh, baby. That big fat dookie D tier. Yes, I agree. I think shades are D. All right, let me know is there anyone out there whose favorite ghost is a shade? I want to find you, and I want to shake your hand. Well, I want to air high five you. It's 2021 after all. But yeah, let's move on to the next ghost, which is gonna be demon. Now, demons are very cool, and actually one of the most consistently dangerous ghosts in my opinion, because the demon has recently been buffed. If you don't know, basically the power of a demon is that they can hunt very early, and that has recently been buffed. It used to be 65% sanity, now it is 70% sanity, which you reach, especially on multiplayer, extremely quickly. You go below 70, and then the ghost can just hunt right away. Generally, sanity management is much harder in multiplayer because you have a lot less pills for the overall people, and your sanity drains quicker in multiplayer as well. It just makes demons hunt so much. And the thing with hunting a lot is that almost every hunt will go completely without a hitch. It will go perfect. You'll all hide. You'll go out and go into the ghost room, continue gathering evidence, and nothing will happen. However, the fact that if the ghost can do a ton of hunts, the chance of one slip up or it getting you in a situation where you don't want to be, like, let's say the ghost throws something in the back of the room. I've died this way. It throws something in the back of the room, I go take a photo, and then it hunts. And it hunts at the front of the room, and boom, I'm over. It's done. Because I can't, like, I'm at the back of the room, and I need to walk all the way to the front, get out, and you can't do that when the ghost, like, spawns in front of the rooms, which is a very, like, that happens quite a bit. It, like, kind of, just the fact that it hunts a lot gives it so many opportunities to catch you off guard, which is the only real way that a ghost can kill you in this game. A Revenant can kill you a lot more often in situations where you don't have any other options besides just straight up dying. But like any other ghost really has to catch you in a bad spot for you to even die against them. But the fact that demons hunt so often makes that a lot more possible. So I think that is 70% hunt is so strong. Now there is another thing, which is their weakness, is that when you ask the Ouija board a question, which I think this weakness is actually a strength almost against casual players, because first of all, people don't understand how it works. What it says in the book is that your sanity won't be affected when you're talking on the Ouija board with a demon. Now, what people think is like, okay, so if I ask the board a question and then my sanity drops at all, it will not be a demon. But that's not true. The question, if you ask something to the Ouija board, it can either fail or succeed. If it fails, it will drop your sanity by 40%, which, if you're playing solo, immediately drops you into hunt range of a demon. This is happening even when it's a demon. This happens against any ghost, the 40% drop. The only thing that doesn't happen against a demon is the 10% drop from getting a question correct. If you ask a correct question, then for every ghost, you will get a sanity drop of 10%, but for a demon, this won't happen. So you can use this in like a no evidence run or something else. You can use this to figure out a demon, but the fact that kind of debates the player into even talking to the board at all, which can drop their sanity, which can get the demon to hunt. It is kind of almost strengthening the demon's ability because the 40% sanity drop is so huge. So I think this is barely a weakness at all. It is actually kind of I find that a really cool bait that the demon has. But it does help when you're like a more advanced player and you know that you can rule the demon out extremely quickly, or if your question succeeds right away, it can be very helpful. So I think demon is, I would legitimately, demon is stronger than a Jinn in my opinion, because the amount of times that the demon can catch you off guard on small maps, like the demon is so much stronger on small maps than the Jinn. The Jinn is better on larger maps, but the demon is very, very strong. I'm actually gonna order them this way. Should I don't think I'm gonna order them based on. I think that we would have to go back a little bit too much. But yeah, demon is a extremely strong A tier, almost bordering on S tier, just because it can hunt so much and has so many opportunities to catch you off guard. I'm really curious what chat thinks. I think this is gonna be pretty. I think people are going to agree with me here, but let's see what people think. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There we go. We got a solid A tier in chat. Even S tier. I do agree. I think this is pretty much the percentage I would go with. I would almost go S tier. I would be rather... I would put the demon in S tier quicker than I would put Rev. Stick, thank you for the... Whoa, wait a minute. What the heck happened there? Thank you for the 20 gift subs. Thank you so much. Holy shit. Thank you. Sorry, I'll make sure to go back through the donations. I'm just very focused on the explaining my reasonings here. But thank you so much. Okay, so demon, definite A tier. I almost want to put it S tier just because it hunts so often during a quest. I'm very, very torn here. It is just like the highest an A tier can be. Very, very good. Okay, let's move on. We have 4 more ghosts to go. I just can't. Revenant has to be the Soul King. I'm sorry. The 70% buff, it's very, very, very close there. It's almost like, oh, I'm so torn. I think I'm gonna keep A tier, but I could totally agree. I could totally agree someone putting the demon in S tier, honestly. But yeah, let's go with the next one, which is gonna be Yurei. Yurei was a original certified absolute trash tier because the Yurei ability, which has a stronger effect on the player's sanity, didn't even heckin' work. It wasn't implemented, wasn't in the game, didn't do anything. At one point, Psycho asked DK, I've been testing Yurei's ability for so long, and I just don't know what it does. I can't figure it out. What is it supposed to do? And then DK was like, oh, sorry, it's broken. So I'll add it back in, which is just hilarious. So the Yurei didn't have an ability for the longest time until like a few weeks ago when it got added, which is just hilarious to me. So originally I had a big fat D tier. However, now it does have an ability. So what is the ability? How does it work? It is a random ability, so a chance ability. It's not a like passive drain. It is a chance ability. I think when you're close to the ghost, I think that's a requirement for it. It can drop your sanity. I'm assuming 25%. I'm not sure about the number, but it can drain your sanity when you're close to the ghost. Like similar to how the Banshee, that's how DK described it. Similar to the Banshee, the Yurei can do a random event or random ability to drop your sanity. But if it is similar to the Banshee, then it basically never happens because it's so extremely rare. So I like it. I don't have much data on this. I barely ever like noticed the Yurei doing this at all, but it is in the game now, so it does make it stronger than D tier. You can no longer warrant Yurei being in D tier because it does have something that can help it get hunts early, which I think is one of the main things that just immediately gets a ghost out of D tier. And I think another thing that the Yurei has going for it immensely is that a roaming Yurei is one of the scariest ghosts in the game because of its evidence. Freezing will be very hard to find if you have the breaker on and it's roaming, because it will never get any room to freezing. Orbs, if you can't find the ghost room, you can't find the orbs, so you won't be having that one. And then you also have writing on top of that. If you can't find the ghost because it's roaming a lot, you can't get the writing, and you're just kind of completely without evidence. Like, even with a roaming mare is pretty scary, but a mare can still give you spirit box every time. So at least you have one thing that brings you closer to mare. And then you only need one other thing to really put you on the right track. With a Yurei, you could literally be without anything. You could literally be completely clueless. Which I think is another... almost, now that I'm explaining this, I'm almost rethinking where I put this ghost. It almost seems stronger than it is, but not every ghost is a roamer, right? If we're gonna include roaming versions of these ghosts, we would have to completely rethink some of this, because a roaming Jinn that starts its hunt from a different direction is every ghost that hunts in an unexpected location. That is one of the main ways people die, because the ghost hunts somewhere where you don't expect it, and then it catches you off guard. But that counts for every single ghost. So I don't think we should really take that too much into account, but it is something of note. It's not a D tier. In my opinion, Yurei is a solid C tier. Almost, now that I've been thinking about it a little more, or like here, I would almost go B tier, but I think it's just C tier. It's just, the ability is rare. Like, if you compare it to Mare, man, like, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, it has to be C tier. But still, it is not trash. It's not as trash as it used to be. Yurei, in my opinion, used to be the shittiest ghost. Even spirits were still worse, but Yureis were the most boring ghosts because they literally had nothing. Also, something that I really should explore more, because I almost was going to forget to mention it here, but the Yurei actually has a weakness where if you smudge the ghost, it is stuck in its room. Now, I've never made use of this. I've never managed to either use this to figure out the ghost or make any sense of this, use it in any scenario whatsoever. In my 1,000 hours of playing, I've never been able to use this smudge stick, lock the ghost into a room for 1.5 minutes or 1.5 minutes ever. I've never used that. I personally don't even know if it's in the game. Because I've tried it sometimes, but I've never been able to detect it or use it like with motion sensors or something. It's something cool, and I almost wish that they would take that ability away from the Yurei and just give it to every ghost. I would like to be able to lock every ghost in the room. I think that could become a useful mechanic if you just give it to every ghost, but just having it on Yurei makes it so super mega situational that it never comes into play. So I don't really think that's a weakness. It doesn't really do much, but I'm gonna keep Yurei in C tier. I'm curious to know what you guys think about this ghost. So let's see what chat thinks here. Chat thinks also C tier. B tier, interesting. Pretty. Oh, there's an event here. What happened? Oh, the hype train. C tier, B tier is actually pretty high. So people were more inclined to put it B than to put it D, which I also agree with. I think that it's more likely a B than a D tier, but I don't know. I wish that ability was cooler. I wish it would do more. That would be very fun. And it also kind of counteracts it. Whoa, I never thought that. But it kind of counteracts the fact that a roaming Yurei is so strong. Because if you can lock it in the room, then you can get its evidence easier. It's kind of interesting, but it's so short and so hard to notice that it barely comes into play. But that is kind of interesting. So yeah, it's gotten a lot more interesting with the actually having an ability rather than just being useless. But yeah, let's move on. 3 more to go. Oni next. What about Oni? I think Oni is one of the more liked ghosts in this game, and I totally agree. Someone, Jessica, who is a viewer, has been keeping track of all my game stats, and the Oni is the most active ghost, period, by a pretty long shot if you just look at the statistics of all the ghost events per minute, which I think is the most important stat, because ghost events will actually drop your sanity by 10%. So if the ghost is very active and can do a lot of ghost events, it kind of has a special ability where it can drop your sanity, because every time it does a ghost event, drops your sanity. Boom. The fact that Onis are the most active. Now, it's not like, oh, it does twice as many ghost events. It's just, I think the average for an Oni is that it does 1 ghost events every 3 minutes, whereas the weakest one, Spirit, does like 1 ghost events every 2 what was it? I think it does 1 ghost event every 4 minutes or something. It's just the range is not huge, but it is it is there, and it's just a slight thing. And this is from solo data, mostly, by the way. So even in solo play, Onis are more active on average than Shades are, which I think is counterintuitive, because you read the journal and it says Onis are more active against multiple people and less active against the solo player, but that's not the case. They can hunt in any situation. They don't have the thing with Shades where if there's multiple people, or if there's not multiple people, they can't hunt. No, Onis can always hunt. So yeah, it doesn't have that weakness. And another thing that the Oni has, which is kind of cool, is that that didn't used to be in the game as well, the Oni throw ability. It can throw objects at high speed. Now, that didn't used to be in the game for the longest time. Another one of those things where Psycho went in the content creator chat, hey, I can't get this to happen. Is it in the game? And then DK went, oh shit, no, it's not in the game. And then he added it in the game. So thank you, Psycho, once again. For testing these things and go, because it's very hard to figure out these things when they don't happen. Like when they do happen, you can just show it, but when they don't happen, you can't really rule it out. But yeah, thank you. So Oni didn't have that for the longest time. Now it does, so you can detect them based on throwing, but it doesn't make them more inclined to throw. I think a lot of people take this as, okay, so if I see a ghost throw, then it's an Oni. That's not necessarily the case. It only throws further. It's not like a Poltergeist where it wants to throw a ton more. It does feel that way. Personally, I also feel that way, but nothing indicates that would be something in the game. Like we got to be careful not to let our confirmation bias take advantage of us. We shouldn't always think, okay, it's an Oni because it throws stuff. But if it throws very far, then yes, it can be an Oni, which allows you to detect it. I don't think it happens on average. You don't often go, oh, that was a big throw, that's an Oni. It's more the other way where you went, that's a big throw, that's an Oni, and then it doesn't end up being an Oni, because it's hard to figure out this difference. Onis are just fun. I really like Onis. They're very active and really cool. They have some decent evidence. Writing an EMF can be hard. Spirit box very easy, of course. I would put Oni. It doesn't have much in terms of like getting kills or anything, but it can do a lot of ghost events, which can drop your sanity, get early hunts sometimes. I'm gonna go with C tier. Now, I would put Oni in B tier just for fun, just because it's a fun ghost, but this is not a fun tier list. This is a strength tier list, so I'm gonna have to go with C tier here. It's not a trash ghost, but it's also not. I can't warrant comparing it to Mare or Banshee. Like, come on, that's just how my list is. Like, look at these ghosts, right? You could go. Look at what's in these tiers: Revenant, Jinn Demon, Banshee, Phantom, Mare. Like that. This is the level that it should be going up against, which it just can't. So it's a C tier in my opinion. I think that people might very much disagree. So I'm gonna let's see what people think. I'm curious. Okay, people disagree with me, but I've supported. I've said, oh wait, a new poll. What the heck? What is happening here? Okay, here. Oops, you can't see. The S tier is only 2%. So B tier is what people vote. I just don't think it is. I don't like it. Doesn't kill you. It's a really fun ghost, yes, which makes you want to put it higher. But it's not a ghost that's gonna kill you on average. So I'm gonna leave it at C tier here, even though I think it's a very fun ghost. But yeah, sorry for the Oni fans, but it's a C tier in terms of strength, in my opinion. Let's see if I can get rid of that other thing. Okay, we have 2 more ghosts to go, and these are actually the new ghosts that have recently been added. So if you were looking forward to these, sorry, I went in journal order here. Let's go talk about Hantus. Hantu have the ability that they are faster when it's cold and slower when it's warm. So now, on paper, that sounds scary, right? You want to have on paper, that sounds pretty scary. It all depends on how much faster a Hantu gets and how much slower it gets. And if you have force it or like on purpose turned off the breaker against the Hantu, you know how almost insignificant this speed difference is. It is barely noticeable. It does close in on you, and you will probably die if you try to just run straight away from it. But it is like so limited. I wish they would push this to the extreme. They would increase the range hugely, whereas if you leave the breaker off and it's like all the rooms are very low and around like a 4 degrees or something, I wish that the Hantu was as fast as Revenant, but it's not even close to that. It is not even close to a Jinn. It's just slow, and I wish they would increase it. I would wish they would buff Hantu. It would be an easy A or easy B or maybe even A tier if it was like actually significantly turbo fast. It's kind of an opposite Jinn. If it was a true opposite Jinn, like where it was really fast and it wouldn't have this distance thing where the ghost has to be far away for it to speed up, like it could actually contend with a Jinn, but it just doesn't. It's just not fast enough from my testing, and I've showed this off. It's just not significant enough for it to warrant like a higher tier. However, if you like playing on a large map or something where the breaker can be often off without you wanting to bother to turn it on, and it is cold, then it can be scary. So it does put it in a higher kill rank to me than like this ghost has something going for it during a hunt that can actually get you killed in more scenarios than other ghosts could get you killed, but it's just not as significant as it could be if they buffed it. But then again, if you turn on the breaker and the temperatures are high, then it's even slower than a normal ghost, which you generally want to turn on the breaker, especially on small maps where it's easy. So then it is actually a nerf to it. So so the ranking, that is all there is to Hantu. They have some, I think Hantu is fingerprints, writing, ghost orbs. Writing and ghost orbs, again, can be difficult. Fingerprints is pretty easy. So it's doesn't have any, like, crazy evidence either. I'm gonna go Hantu. It could be B, even A tier if they buffed it. It's like the difference between this ability working very strongly and very weakly like it is now is huge. Because yeah, if it is basically an opposite Jinn, it could be A tier, but for me it's a C tier. It's not D tier because it does have it does have the chance. It does have more scenarios in which you could just die if you didn't turn on the breaker and it's cold and you get caught off guard. You could end up getting killed against a Hantu, but the fact that the opposite is also true, where it's even like a Jinn at least is a normal ghost when you turn off the breaker. A Jinn, or a Hantu, if you turn on the breaker, it becomes slower and like significantly slower. So yeah, you can also weaken it a ton. So I think it's almost like, I don't know. I wish they would just buff it. Like, that's it. I'm gonna put this in C tier with the hope of getting it higher in the future if the development team of Phasmo goes. They just hate Hantu, man. I don't know why they dicked on Hantu so hard. I wish Hantu was stronger, but it's just not. So yeah, we're leaving Hantu there. And let's see what chat thinks. I'm curious. And a poll. Let's see. What do people think? Oh, okay, nice. Oh, that was pretty close, actually. D tier. D tier was pretty high. So sorry, the C tier has fallen off, but it's only 2% with 10 votes. I don't know why or the S tier. I don't know. I think people are just trolling when they vote S on Hantu. But yeah, we have pretty like C or D tier. In my opinion, I can't put the Hantu in D tier. I can't do my boy like that. I mean, I don't really have any. I don't really care that much for Hantus, but they do have something going for them. Like, come on, they're not spirit level. Come on now. So yeah, we're leaving Hantu in C tier here. Let's move on to the final ghost, which is a Yokai. Yokai! Now, where Hantu was an absolute... Actually, when I saw Hantu and Yokai, and when I repped them, I was, Hantu is epic. Yokai sucks. And then when they came out, big switcheroo. Yokais are amazing. They're so cool. The fact that they can hunt at... So their ability is that they can hunt earlier when you talk. They can hunt at 80% sanity, the highest of any ghost except Banshee's ability. Yokais can hunt, which is nuts. That will almost happen, like when you're playing multiplayer, that will happen pretty much instantly. Your team will be below 80%. That happens so quick. Literally anyone and ask the board a question and you'll immediately almost be at 80% average sanity. It happens so quick. which if you're then gonna yell at the ghost, which everyone yells at the ghost, that's the game. The game is pissing off the ghost, so that's what we're doing all the time. I never shut up. So the yokai can basically always early hunt. So it can catch you extremely off guard. Now, I think the main thing that makes this ability weaker than people think it is, if you went, this ghost can hunt at 80% sanity. That's like, boom, S tier. But no. Oh, can I not remove it from the... Oh, well, okay. Well, it's not D tier. Let me put it that way. I'm not going to spoil this yet, though. I can't put it back. I can't get it out of the thing anymore. But, if the ghost could hunt at 80% sanity every single time, boom, S tier, instantly. But that's not what it can do. The ghost can only hunt when you're very close to it. Now, what does this mean? If you're very close to the ghost and you're yelling at it, it can start its hunt. But it will start its hunt from where you are, which means that if the ghost starts its hunt on top of you, you get like the maximum value out of the grace period possible. You can run, you have 5 seconds to run as far away as you can. It can never, like, when it hunts early, it can never do these situations where you're like, let's say Willow Street House basement or Tanglewood basement, where you're yelling at the ghost, and then it hunts, you go out of the basement, and it's waiting on the stairs for you, and you're just like, well, fuck me then. That's not gonna happen against the yokai because they hunt on top of you most of the time. So these hunts, albeit scary, these are like special hunts where they're very close to you and they aren't necessarily going to kill you all the time, which I think is almost a shame. If this ghost, if the, like, being loud wasn't proximity based and it was global and the ghost could hunt at any time someone was being loud in the house, this would be absolute S tier. I would not doubt putting this on S tier because it is, like, the weakness of the yokai is barely anything. That it can't hear you during a hunt. Like, it can only hear you very close range. Who is yelling bloody murder during a hunt? Then you just want to die. It is also not a weakness that that gives itself away, because it's very hard to, like, get consistent, like, to figure it out this way. I've barely ever made it work. So that weakness kind of is irrelevant. Man, that would be so insane. Imagine a yokai with global hearing. That is terrifying. But another thing that it does have is that it gives itself away pretty easily. Now, a nice thing that the yokai has is that freezing has become harder to detect. But if you can rule out freezing, and you get an early hunt, then it's instantly clear it's a yokai, because a yokai is the only non-freezing ghost that can hunt above 50% sanity, and significantly so. So if you get an early hunt and it's not freezing, then you know it's a yokai. So that gives itself away pretty easily. But I don't know. Sometimes it's chaotic in multiplayer. You won't really realize that. Sometimes it's hard to figure out, is it freezing, yes or no, because of the new roaming patch. I think yokais are very, very strong. A really cool addition to the game. I really like them. They're very aggressive, very active when you start yelling at them, which everyone yells at yokais. That's fun. So I love yokais. They're really cool. Not S tier, but absolute A tier in my opinion. And the new ghost being an A tier, very great. I can't wait to either revision this list, because there's gonna be things changing. I'll look at what chat says here quickly, but there's gonna be things, or let's just look at chat now and then we'll talk about more stuff after, so we can timestamp the video better. Let's see. What does chat think? Does chat agree with my A? Did I miss anything? I don't think I missed anything. Let's see. Chat is. Let me end this poll. And poll. Chat thought this was an A tier, and C you can't see, but it's only 2% with 11 votes. So 65% A tier. Some people thinking B tier, which I just can't. I can't put this B. This is an absolute A tier for me. It is just such, like, on paper it can go either way, but the way it's implemented in the game makes yokais terrifying. It's great. So yeah, in my opinion, A tier, and chat also agrees. There were only a few times where we disagreed, but yeah, again, this is what I think. I've thought about this. Again, demon is a little bit on the edge here, because a demon does have that ability of being able to hunt you in unfortunate scenarios, whereas the yokai doesn't really have that, because the yokai will always be on top of you. So yeah, this is my list. There's gonna be two things that are gonna immediately change this list end of August, when the new huge update announces. This will be at least 2 new ghosts coming. They teased 2 ghosts. There might be more, who knows, but at least 2 ghosts. which is, of course, going to add 2 new ghosts to this. And one of those ghosts will actually take over the Revenant's evidence type, and the Revenant will get a new evidence type, which, if that evidence is really hard to get, man, Revenants could become terrifying. I'm very excited to figure out. I don't know what that new evidence type is going to be. But yeah, and other ghosts are also going to change their evidence. So some of the things where I said, like, these ghosts are, let's say a Yurei that has pretty hard evidence when it's roaming, that might change if they give other evidence to these ghosts. So, I mean, those things never really completely determined my location or my position of these ghosts, so I think it's not going to matter much, but definitely 2 new ghosts coming. I wonder, are we going to get D tier ghosts? Or are we going to get S tier ghosts? I really hope we're going to get another S tier ghost. I'm going to make a little video on the tease as well, but I'm not going to cover that in this video because it'll just be speculating and we don't know yet. But yeah, let me know if you agree. Where would you put the ghost? Which ghost do you disagree with? I know there's a couple that people will definitely disagree with. Banshees, Jinns, Yokais maybe, Polters, stuff like that. I would be very curious to hear. I haven't done this, and I'm excited to do it again once the new ghosts come out. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoy stuff like this. If you're not subscribed, please do so. If you like the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. And if you want to join the lovely gamers here in chat, you can join us over at twitch.tv/insym every single day at 7 p.m. Central European Time. Let me also know if I forgot anything that you think is important for these ghosts. I don't think I did. I wrote everything down, but there might be some slight evidence things or experience things that you have with one of these ghosts, and I would be very interested to hear. So yeah, let me know. I'll see you in the next video. Love you very much. Bye bye, guys. Bye bye. That was so fun. Whew.